I'm Nadira Tudor, and this is The Fall of Kabul, a soldier's story. Was it worth it? Okay, Olivia, thank you for agreeing to talk to us. I'd like to start with your memories of Kabul falling, how you felt at that time, where were you, what was going through your mind. Describe your feelings and what happened.
Well, I think when Kabul fell down, I think I was just arriving in NATO, so it was quite impressive to see some, I would say some places that I was used to go with this violence, those people in trouble. So that was quite disturbing for sure, because we used to go a lot to Kabul airport. It was one huge hub for all the logistics maneuvers. So yeah, it was really hard to see.
You say it was hard to see. How did you feel?
Of course, sorry and sad, because you worked a lot. You do some. You try to do your best to fulfill your orders, and the orders are made to establish peace, to maintain peace. So, of course, when you see that at the end, it's not the case. It's quite disturbing.
Disturbing's an interesting word. What flashed through your mind at that moment? Because it was so dramatic when we all saw the news unfold. It was unexpected.
Sure. I think that the flash I have in mind is all the crowd begging and wanting to have an aircraft to escape, and because I was also there for some operations trying to rescue some people, and of course at this moment you can't take everybody. So, but you know for sure that the crowd is needy, and that's a lot to handle.
It looked very stressful and very chaotic.
Sure.
Let's go back to your broader experience of being there. How many times you were there, and let's focus on your first experience, shall we?
Well, I went twice in Afghanistan, one in 2007, the second one in 2011, at the end of the year. The two experiences were quite similar and quite different at the same time, which was really interesting, because for the first tour I was a crew member. I was a co-pilot of the aircraft, so basically trying to discover the needs of this outside operation, all the special instructions, things like that. And the second time I was in charge of all the transport, the operation transport group. So I was much more dealing about the rhythm of the missions, the way to plan them, the interaction with all the different stakeholders, requesting some movements, some missions. So the two were quite different, especially that 2007 was during summer, and 2011 was one of the worst winter in Afghanistan since the 50s. So really quite different, different landscapes, different pictures, different things I have in mind. 2007 is a real discovery of almost everything, because we were used to go to Africa. We have plenty of location there. At that time, I have already something like 4 or 5 years of experience on my aircraft. So I went many times in Africa, but of course never in Afghanistan. So never in such mountainous landscape, never in such a multinational environment, because of course you have the Americans, you have NATO, you have all those very huge air bases and all this traffic. You know, there's a lot of aircraft on the air, drones, AWACS, which you don't find for sure in Africa. It's much more empty. So you know, being able to first be able to liaise with everybody, to fly safe, of course, because at some point when you arrive to Kandahar and you are number 8 on the approach, yeah, there's much more risk of having an air crash with another aircraft than having something on the ground. But with all the American procedures, the jamming that you have all the time, because when you approach the air bases, of course, in order to protect the logistic convoy, they try to make some very big jamming in order to jam, all the remote explosives which are hidden on the roads. But it's a full spectrum jamming. So when you arrive with your aircraft, it's a lot of noises for the radio. So you're not exactly able to listen carefully of the instructions of the ATC in order to land, to know what is about. So I have plenty of pictures in mind, especially at night, like a very high steep descent on Kabul, because that was the tactical procedures we were using at that time. By night, with a lot of noises in my ears, and the crew still be able to fulfill the landing, which is quite difficult because at some point you are quite equipped in the aircraft. The aircraft has a lot of shafts and flares, to counter missiles. So everything is ready in the aircraft, ready to be launched. And you have an helmet, you have the life jackets, the bulletproof, you have extra protection in the aircraft, which is of course restraining your freedom of movement for piloting. So there's a lot of things. You're starting very, very high, because in order to stay safe out of the range of the missiles the longest you can. So usually it was an arrival something like 8 kilometers high, but of course the Transal is an old aircraft, so the pressurization is really low. So you are about 3,000 meters altitude equivalent. So you are almost feeling hypoxia. And then something like 20 degrees slope, you just fall on the airfield. But of course, once you're making the procedures, you can't really stop it in the middle, because you're quite vulnerable at that time. So you have to be sure that you're allowed to do that, that the way is cleared. But it's night, there's nothing around, there's a lot of noises around. So that was really impressive for the young pilot I was at that time.
It's quite challenging, isn't it?
Of course.
Because people do not usually hear the ins and outs of a pilot's job.
Of course.
So thank you for that. But
you're welcome.
It sounds terrifying that you're having to learn so quickly, and actually at any moment things can go wrong. That's
why you're prepared for that. And at that time, not every pilot was allowed to go to Afghanistan. You have to be you have to have some experience. You have to be at a certain level of qualification, which implies for sure some training about high steep descents, knowledge about all the self-protection aspects of the aircraft, and also you have a preparation before being posted in this kind of operations. There's a way to train with your crew in order to be efficient. So there are some dedicated simulation training. There's a lot of also theory training, like reading the special instructions, all the caveats, all the rules of the theater. So, of course, the discovery at the moment you discover it, of course you have to cope with it. There's no choice, but you're also prepared for that. The stress, the time, the way you handle your aircraft. You're supposed to be with the minimum level to do that.
Now, it was a very specific environment, wasn't it, that you were in? How prepared were you in reality for the dangers that you were facing there? Because most people that I've spoken to who had experience in Afghanistan, no matter where they were in the country, are very clear that they were surprised when they first got there. Within the first 24 hours, most of them.
The surprise is real for sure, but I would say that you're so trained, and you have such procedures that basically are the way to deal with the stress, with the surprise. Because even if part of your brain is surprised, the other part is dealing with the aircraft. Is the procedure is the same, because at some point, the way to let's talk again about this steep descent. The way to perform it, even if you're in Afghanistan, in Mali, it's the same. There's the same tactical procedures in your aircraft. The only thing that is changing is it easy to listen to the radio? Is it easy to find the airfield? But we have a system. We have some inertial navigation systems. So we are prepared for that, for the action. The way you are feeling it, it's much more after the mission, because we used to say that the mission is closed after you sign the order books at the squadron. After that, there's always a debriefing within the crew to talk about what goes wrong, what goes pretty well. So if somebody wants to share something, it's really a crew life at this moment, because you're posted as a crew and you're always flying with this crew. So it's really a team, and usually that's people. The people are known because we are coming from the same squadron. So that's a way to be efficient. At this moment, you're very close to the special forces concept, which is people have to know each other. And at this moment, you're knowing each other from the squadron, and you are living together for 2 months and a half. Same house, same occupation, same hobbies. So that's the way to deal actually with the surprise. First, to be prepared, to have the procedures, the tactical procedures, the skill to do that, and after it's all about debriefing within the crew.
I want to talk about incidents that stood out for you, that affected you actually, that are imprinted in your memory, that you weren't expecting or probably didn't want to experience. From your perspective and your position as a pilot, because it'd be good to understand what happened or certain snapshots of what happened. Are you able to share some of those?
No, I think so. I think that the most painful part was actually to bring back the corpse, because for sure when there was some incidents in the forward on bases, like explosion, trooping contacts, things like that, at the end that's your job to bring back the corpse with a flag on it inside the aircraft back to the hub in order to bring the corpse to their families. So that is quite heavy, because we in transport aircraft, the crew is usually talking a lot, because we know each other, we have things to share. That's really quite enjoyable team. But these kind of missions, bring back the corpse. You have almost a quiet aircraft for the whole duration of flights, because of course you may be busy beginning to take off, the landing, but of course at certain time you are always on cruise, and there's the pilot, there's less to do, and well, at this moment you realize what you're transporting, what is inside, who they are, because of course we have listings. So it's quite heavy at this moment, because also you have to go inside the cargo to equip yourself, or to unequip yourself, depending on the way in or way out, with the helmets and things like that. And when you're doing that, next to the corpse, there's a flag on it. So this part was really impressive, because you don't know that in Africa. The risk were very, very low, lower than that. So you don't experience that prior to this operation.
Can you remember the first time that happened?
I don't know if it's the first time, but that's the one I really remember, because We were to Kabul for different mission, and actually the aircraft which was meant to bring back the corpse was broken, so we received the task instead of it, and we had to wait because there was also ceremony. So I think maybe it was the first time, and there was also the French Minister of Defense at this moment attending, making a kind of ceremony, and so we had a kind of hall of fame, just behind the aircraft, and we were standing there for something like 1 hour to wait for of course, the corpse ceremony, the people bringing the body in the aircraft, and it was freezing as hell, of course, and we were not prepared because we didn't expect to do that. So there was a really you can feel the cold and the strong wind in Kabul, because it's really high and really cold at that time, and well, the wait also, all the time you have to wait for the corpse, it's the time that you use, of course, to think about it. So there's gravity in this whole ceremony and experience.
What were you thinking at that time?
Service, that the reason we are there, the fact that sure, our position is not exactly civilian airline pilots, and there are risks, and at some point you put in consideration a lot of things, of course, but also you put in balance, I would say, the preparation you have, and you also rely to cope with it. You rely on the fact that you're well prepared, and that risks are part of the job.
Do you notice in those moments, because you mentioned that normally you'd be talking and chatting and you have this real community of people working together, and then it's almost silent when you have to carry a body, a corpse, back to base or back to the families. Did you notice the changes of personality amongst your group during those moments? Can you remember?
I think I would say that everybody was able to feel the gravity, the heaviness of this moment, and so I would say that naturally people were just relying on the standard calls that you have to do in a crew, and it was done almost naturally. When you launch all the checklists and the procedures, and as soon as the way you launch them, you're not putting a lot of chit chat around. The way it's responded, there's not a lot of chit chat around, and everybody's aware that it's kind of silent communion. There's no need to make everybody shut up or whatever. So it's very natural.
Respectful.
Yes, exactly.
You also mentioned that during the job is when your training kicks in, but it's afterwards that you might recall what was happening and have an emotional reaction. Can you remember an experience that you had and what it related to while you were there?
I don't have a lot regarding that, because we were a little bit out of the Afghan bases. The transport group was in Tajikistan, so and the time you need to travel from Kabul to Tajikistan is a kind of SAS. At some point, it's a way also to deal with your emotion, to process them, and so finally when you arrive in Tajikistan, it's almost a different phase, a different country. So that there was not a lot to remember about that, because the distinction was pretty clear. We were flying back, so there's the moment where you are safe again. So I wouldn't say that I remember a lot regarding that. Maybe for sure my fighter pilots colleagues, which were actually taking off and landing in Kandahar, may have experienced different ways, because when you rest after your mission, if you just hear a rocket alert, I think it's quite different from our position in Tajikistan, where there was no risk at all, for sure.
Did you feel a sense of security because you were just flying in and out?
At some point, for sure, because I would say that's the cost of the aircraft. It's not exactly something that you can waste, an aircraft as per se. So that we have procedures to minimize the risk, and the way we were doing them is really minimizing the risk, because when you are out of the range of the missile, you're out of the range. Even if it's launched, that's the intel phase. The intel briefing prior to our mission briefing is just is meant for that. They are briefing all the latest intelligence update, the risk on the route, where there was some trooping contacts, what was the latest events. So that's all about having the situation awareness. That's the main part of our job, and to actually cope with that, it's also the role of the captain, is to actually decide the way, the trajectory, the timings also. So of course we were really minimizing the risks, and for the pilots, it's all about phases, because you're taking off from Tajikistan. Okay, nothing to report. You're doing the cruise. You enter Afghanistan, but you are still way too high for any threat. So at this moment, you're just preparing the arrival, but of course it's a kind of between chien and loup in French, saying that you're in a resting phase, or not a busy phase, but at the moment it will begin, there's no time to waste. So at this moment you have just to prepare, so the cognitive pressure or the skills are just rising to be ready for the moment you arrive over Kabul. So it's all about phases, and of course all the steep down, the high steep descent, the operation on the grounds are the risky parts. But once again, it's only a limited amount of time, and after that, once again, you depart. There's risk up to the range of the missiles, then you are safe again. So it's this kind of switch between the phases that you have to handle, but that's also part of the job.
You say the risk, and obviously there was huge risk. I just want to understand if those risks ever became a reality. Obviously not for you, because you're here, but were you witness to when those risks became a reality for other people in your position?
Actually, the self-protection system of the aircraft, depending on those phases, is either put on automatic or manual or half automatic. So we experience some departure of chef and flares, but it's making some noise, because something departing from your aircraft, there's a pyrotechnic booster. You can't actually hear the difference between the chef and flares just be launched for nothing, or the chef and flare are actually deviating any threat. So there was plenty of moments where we chef and flares, but I don't know if it was actually real or not, because at some point the system, the way it was made, can be also tricked by different things, like if you are crossing an aircraft, which really in some aspect the fan, the oscillation of the rhythm of the fan can be seen as a reflection of the radar from the aircraft. So there are some technical aspects when you don't really know, but for sure, once again, it's the procedures. You are semi-automatic or manual for the WISO, for the weapon system officer. That's the way. You launch the chef and flares, you make a break, an evasive action, still alive, the system is not responding or it's not actually launching a new alert, okay, come back to the route, pursue, continue. So that's, I don't know if there was actually a real risk, but for sure we responded the way it has to be.
So you'll never know.
Well, sometimes, but it was prior to my tour. The way to go from, for example, if I did remember well, it was from Kabul to Bagram, which is really really short. People were using to proceed very low level, but at very low level, of course, you have less risk to be shot by a missile because it's really hard to engage you and to acquire the target, but you are really much more eager to have any rifles, small guns, things like that. So that there's always a balance between the probability and the gravity, and people were using much more this way to go from Kabul to and there were a lot of people being having a rifle on the aircraft, so there were small holes. It was not really a big deal for the aircraft, but it can be a big deal for the crew, of course. So at this moment, due to the number of the times it happened, we changed the profile and finally go high then low, then steep descent. So maybe sometimes there was, but we always try to adapt ourselves to the threat.
Now, you said you went twice,
Mm.
and the second time you went,
Yeah.
you were in a higher position of responsibility. What differences did you see between both of your tours, and did you see the writing on the wall?
Well, I would say that the main difference is that at some point, when on the first tour you're a crew member, so you don't have to think a lot about all the environment. You know, you have a planning, and when it's said you will fly Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. So you have a crew life with your crew. Basically, you're all doing all together. The second time I was in charge of the two, at the end, the three crews that had, all the three aircraft, all the mechanics, of course, making the maintenance. So at this moment, you're also managing the risk for your crews, because at some point, it was during winter, and it was really one of maybe the worst winter in Afghanistan since '54. So we experienced something like minus 19 in the morning, minus 8 in the afternoon. So
Dear me.
there's some part of the aircraft completely broke due to the ice. So even on ground, the aircraft were not really happy with that. So at this point, you have also in charge to be sure that you don't send your crews in a very winter storm, something like that, because at some point it's way more dangerous to experience icing on the aircraft than maybe to have a real missile that the aircraft can handle. So there was a lot of things to take into account to be sure that you don't put your crew in danger on this part, on the winter, on the weather part, but also, of course, you have to manage the fatigue of the aircraft, of the crews, because as I said, the pressurization was really really poor at this altitude. So the fatigue is real when you are spanning more than 6 hours at almost 3,000 meters of altitude. You're quite tired at the end, especially with the extra weight. So you have to actually manage the rhythm of your crews, and that's something that sometimes they don't see actually, or they don't realize. So you have this position of, okay, there's a risk due to threat, but you can also put them in danger if you're not taking care about all the environment. So this part was really quite interesting, and the second part was that due to this extreme winter, all the roads to the forward on bases were completely blocked due to the ice and the snow in Afghanistan. So all the logistic convoy were not able to reach the forward on bases. So one capability that we used to do only for, I would say, to maintain the skill, which was the high altitude drop, low opening, which is really a French-specific procedure. So, we used to do it just for maintaining the skill of the crews. At this moment, it was really needed because actually you can't land on those on the forward bases because they are very, very small. You know, it's like a little compound, so no runway, nothing, and you can't actually just. Or it was not the French way to do that. The French concept. You can't just drop things very low level because you are low in some valleys, so we don't have the power to extract easily from any threat. So the way we were doing that was to arrive by night 8,000 meters. You open the aircraft, so everybody has to be under oxygen because at that time, at this altitude, it's the Everest. Basically, you are at the top on top of the Everest, totally in the dark. The aircraft is totally dark also because, of course, you don't want to be shot. You're a little bit weight because you're a little bit too low for the maximum range of missiles. So everybody's in the dark. Everybody is under oxygen because there's no pressurization at this moment, and you're using some very precise weather models in order to have all the winds from the position you want to drop to the forward on base. And with those calculations, you fix one point to drop, and actually the drop goes down from 8,000 meters to 150 meters, pure drop. And at 150 meters, the parachutes open, and then the pallets just arrive on ground. We had some waivers to actually balance once again safety and operational need. So we were almost authorized to go very, very, very close from the forward base. So there was a risk, of course, in case of deviation of that the drop may fall directly in the FOB. But we were lucky; it didn't happen. But we had to almost drop something like one mission per week, and in those 2 months, we dropped something like a quarter of the total weight that has been dropped by France from the beginning of the Afghanistan mission. So it was really, really crazy at that time because there was a real need. We had some reports of the forward on bases having to actually take the fuel from the vehicle tanks, in order to put them in the heaters. At this level of need. So of course, when you have this operational pressure, that's really, really interesting to actually live that with your crews, because everybody's involved in the mission. Everybody wants to do the best. The mechanics also did a great job to actually maintain the aircraft to be able to keep this rhythm. And of course, it was always at night, so it was a switch from the way the detachment was living, because the mission was actually taking off in around 11 and coming back 4 in the morning. So then after the reports and things like that. So it was really, really impressive to do this mission. And of course, due to the oxygen, you have a doctor on board. You have the drop team. So it's even bigger crew at this moment, and it's really, really impressive to actually be able to conduct all of them towards the goal of the mission, and it was really, really satisfying at the end to know that, when you have the report from the drop. Okay, the pallets are on the ground, everything is not broken, I would say. So they have food, they have fuel, they can still maintain their duty for 1 more week, 2 more weeks. Really satisfying.
Very dangerous. An added layer of danger there.
Sure, but at some point, all the military aspect of that is actually you're always managing the risk. It's always you don't take a risk for glory or for whatever. There's a way in front of risk, which is signed by an authority. In face of a risk, you have an operational benefit, and the operational benefit has always to be higher than the risk. That's the way we're dealing with that. And you have some different levels that are really coded, very strict, in which you are allowed to take some risk or not. And in Afghanistan, one of the aspects was that we were not allowed to fly without a self-protected aircraft. So that's a way to deal with the risk.
Now you were in charge of all that. What impact did it have on you as a person? Because that's a huge amount of responsibility for a very dangerous mission.
I would say that at some point it's also part of the job due to my the way I've been recruited in the Air Force. My career has this kind of milestones, implying higher and higher responsibilities. So I was really thrilled to have this responsibility first, but also I love people. I love managing people, and that was incredible. When you are able to see that the synergy is perfect, that everybody is in the same way, same focus, and in the same direction, that's really, really great. And at this moment, you can actually be happy about all the steps, all the milestones that you have went through to achieve that, to finally do the essence of your job, manage people, to do operations.
Were you able to sleep at night?
Oh yes, sure, because it was really tiring. So at some point, as a transport pilot, you need to have the skill to be able to instantly sleep everywhere. That's the kind of skill you need, because even on long cruise, as I said, you can't be 100% of activity, of brain activity all the time. So you need to have different phases and to be able to rest even in the middle of mission. So you have to last. Actually, you need to last, because that's a real difference with fighter pilots. Due to the autonomy of the aircraft, they are much more kind of sprint. They are giving everything on a very short period of time, which is also really really demanding. But for the transport pilots, it's all about dealing 8 hours, 10 hours of missions with not exactly at the same moment on every phase, the same intensity. So you have to be able to actually prepare yourself, rest, and things like that. So no, actually I've had some trouble to sleep. But we are also able to do sport, so that's also a way to prepare to sleep.
So if we go back, it's really been fascinating to have that insight into you painting the picture of your time there. If you look back now and knowing what you do now, do you think it was worth it?
When you are saving lives, or when you are maintaining peace, even for a short time, for people in need, I would say it's always worthy.
Despite what we know now?
Time change, environment change, politics change, policy change. That's the way the world is rolling. So you always do the best you can to fulfill your task, and the task is normally always tied to the need, actually.
And for you personally?
Yeah, really. That's at some point, France is not as rich as some other countries, so we don't have a lot of aircraft. We don't have a lot of availability, technical availability. So to actually decide to use an aircraft to do something, it's a cost by itself. So it has to be in front of an operational gain, and the operational gains were quite really easy to understand and really visible.
Thank you for joining us on the Fall of Kabul, a soldier's story. For more episodes and in-depth exploration, visit us on YouTube and on podcast streaming platforms.